The vast emptiness of space echoed with the hum of 1,000 starships. These weren't mighty warships or sleek explorers. No, these were the last hope of the Zephyrians, a race deemed too weak to exist in the harsh galaxy. Aboard the lead ship, Captain Zor-El stared out at the stars. His large, sad eyes reflected the distant pinpricks of light. The captain's thin frame seemed to shrink under the weight of responsibility. He was guiding his entire species to an unknown future. "Sir," a young officer approached, her voice trembling. "We've received another rejection. The Krax Empire won't let us enter their space." Zor-El nodded slowly. It was the same story everywhere they went. The Zephyrians were seen as useless, a burden. In a galaxy where strength was everything, they were nothing. "Plot a new course," he said softly. "We must keep moving." As the fleet drifted through space, the Zephyrians tried to keep hope alive. Children played in the ship's corridors, their laughter a rare sound of joy. Adults worked tirelessly to keep the ancient ships running. Every day was a struggle to survive. Weeks turned into months. The Zephyrian supplies ran low. Their hope dwindled with each passing star system. They had been rejected by every advanced race they encountered. One day, as Zor-El was about to give up, a young scientist burst onto the bridge. "Captain, I found something," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. The captain turned, curious. "What is it, Lyra?" Lyra pulled up a holographic map. "It's a small solar system, far from the galactic core. There's a planet there. It's perfect for us." The bridge crew gathered around, murmuring in surprise. The planet was blue and green, with swirling white clouds. It looked like a jewel against the blackness of space. But Zor-El frowned. "Is it inhabited?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, by a species called humans. They're not as advanced as the other races we've met. They haven't even left their solar system yet." A spark of hope ignited in Zor-El's chest. Maybe, just maybe, these humans would be different. Maybe they wouldn't reject the Zephyrians outright. "Set course for this planet," he ordered. "It's our last chance." As the Zephyrian fleet approached Earth, excitement and fear spread through the ships. Would they finally find a home? Or would they face rejection once again? The first sight of the blue planet left the Zephyrians in awe. It was more beautiful than they had imagined. Oceans, continents, and swirling weather patterns painted a picture of life and diversity. But as they neared, they detected something unexpected. The humans had noticed their approach. Primitive satellites and telescopes had spotted the Zephyrian fleet. On Earth, panic spread quickly. Governments scrambled to respond. Military forces were put on high alert. The news of alien ships approaching Earth dominated every broadcast. Back on the Zephyrian ships, Zor-El faced a difficult decision. Should they approach openly, or try to hide their presence? After much thought, he made his choice. "We will send a message," he announced to his crew. "We will tell the humans who we are, and why we're here. We will ask for their help." As the message was prepared, the Zephyrians held their breath. Everything depended on how these humans would react. Would they show compassion? Or would they, like so many others, reject the Zephyrians as weak and useless? The message was sent, streaking towards Earth at the speed of light. Now, all they could do was wait. Zor-El stood at the view screen, watching the beautiful blue planet grow larger. In his heart, he felt a mix of fear and hope. This could be the end of their long journey, or the beginning of a new nightmare. As Earth's radio signals reached their ships, filled with a mix of fear, curiosity, and cautious welcome, Zor-El allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps, just perhaps, the Zephyrians had finally found a place where they could belong. The world held its breath as the alien message played on every screen and radio. Zor-El's voice, translated into Earth's languages, filled the airwaves. "People of Earth, we come in peace. We are the Zephyrians, a homeless race seeking shelter. We ask for your help and understanding." In New York, The United Nations building buzzed with activity. World leaders argued about how to respond. Some wanted to welcome the aliens, others feared an invasion. Meanwhile, in a small town in Kansas, a family gathered around their old TV. Little Tommy, age 8, tugged at his mom's sleeve. "Mom, do you think the aliens are friendly?" His mother, Sarah, smiled nervously. "I hope so, honey. They sound like they need help." Back in space, the Zephyrian fleet waited anxiously. Zor-El paced on the bridge, his long fingers twitching with worry. Lyra, the young scientist, monitored Earth's communications. "Captain," Lyra called out suddenly, "we're receiving a response from Earth." The crew gathered around, hearts pounding. On the screen appeared a human face, the Secretary General of the UN. "Greetings, Zephyrians," the Secretary General said, her voice calm but cautious. "We have heard your message. While we are surprised by your arrival, we are willing to talk. Please, tell us more about yourselves and why you've come to Earth." A collective sigh of relief swept through the Zephyrian ship. It wasn't a rejection. Not yet, at least. Zor-El stepped forward to reply. He explained their situation, how they had been cast out by other alien races, deemed too weak to have a place in the galaxy. He spoke of their long journey and their desperate need for a new home. As Zor-El's words reached Earth, they touched hearts around the world. In Paris, a young artist began painting a mural of Zephyrians and humans shaking hands. In Lagos, a group of students organized a Welcome Aliens rally. But not everyone was convinced. In Washington, D.C., military generals pushed for caution. "We need to protect ourselves," they argued. "What if this is a trick?" The debate raged on Earth for days. Meanwhile, the Zephyrians waited, their supplies dwindling. Finally, a decision was reached. The UN Security Council voted to allow a small delegation of Zephyrians to land on Earth for face-to-face talks. When Zor-El heard the news, he turned to his crew with tears in his eyes. "We have a chance," he said softly. "A real chance." Preparations began immediately. A landing site was chosen, a large field outside of Geneva, Switzerland. As the day approached, humans from all over the world flocked to the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of the aliens. On the morning of the landing, the air buzzed with excitement and tension. News helicopters circled overhead. Military vehicles stood ready, just in case. A small Zephyrian ship detached from the fleet and began its descent. Inside, Zor-El took deep breaths, trying to calm his nerves. Beside him sat Lyra and 2 other Zephyrians, all chosen for their knowledge and diplomatic skills. As the ship broke through the clouds, the crowd below gasped. Its sleek, silvery form gleamed in the sunlight. Slowly, gracefully, it touched down on the field. For a moment, everything was still. Then, with a soft hiss, the ship's door opened. Zor-El stepped out, blinking in Earth's bright sunlight. He raised his hand in a gesture of peace, his thin frame trembling slightly with emotion. A group of human leaders approached, led by the UN Secretary General. As they neared each other, both sides paused, taking in the historic moment. Then, in a move that surprised everyone, the Secretary General stepped forward and extended her hand to Zor-El. "Welcome to Earth," she said warmly. Zor-El looked at the offered hand, then slowly reached out to shake it. A cheer erupted from the crowd. It was a small gesture, but it marked the beginning of something big. For the first time in their long, difficult journey, the Zephyrians felt a glimmer of real hope. As humans and Zephyrians began to talk, the world watched and waited. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The days following the historic handshake were a whirlwind of activity. Zor-El and his small team found themselves in meeting after meeting with Earth's leaders. They discussed everything from living arrangements to cultural exchange programs. Meanwhile, the rest of the Zephyrian fleet remained in orbit, waiting anxiously for news. Would they finally have a place to call home? In Geneva, Lyra, the young Zephyrian scientist, was tasked with explaining their technology to a group of wide-eyed human scientists. She stood nervously in front of a large screen, her delicate fingers dancing over the controls. "This," she said, bringing up an image of a strange device, "is how we purify water. It uses sound waves to remove impurities." The human scientists leaned forward, fascinated. One of them, Dr. Emily Chen, raised her hand. Could this technology be used to clean Earth's polluted waters? Lyra's large eyes blinked in surprise. I suppose it could. We never thought of using it on such a large scale before." As the scientists excitedly discussed possibilities, a spark of realization ignited in Lyra's mind. Maybe the Zephyrians weren't as useless as the other alien races had claimed. Across the globe, people reacted to the alien presence in different ways. In New York, street vendors sold "I Heart Zephyrians" t-shirts. In Rio de Janeiro, a samba school announced their next carnival theme would be cosmic harmony. But not everyone was happy. In some cities, protests broke out. People carried signs reading "Earth for Humans" and "Go Home, Aliens." The world's governments struggled to maintain order and address people's fears. Back in the meeting rooms, Zor-El faced tough questions. "How can we be sure you're not a threat?" one stern-faced general asked. Zor-El sighed deeply. "Look at our history," he replied. "We've been rejected by every advanced race because we're seen as weak. We don't have powerful weapons or a strong military. We're scholars, artists, and builders. We only want a peaceful place to live and contribute." His words, broadcast around the world, touched many hearts. In that small town in Kansas, little Tommy turned to his mom. "They're just like us, aren't they? They just want a home." Sarah hugged her son, tears in her eyes. "Yes, honey. They're more like us than we first thought." As discussions continued, a plan began to take shape. The Zephyrians would be allowed to settle in several designated areas around the globe. These integration zones would be places where humans and aliens could live and work together. The news reached the Zephyrian fleet, causing an outburst of joy. For the first time in years, children laughed freely in the ship's corridors. Adults wept with relief. They would have a home at last. On Earth, preparations began. In the Australian outback, construction crews broke ground on the first Zephyrian settlement. In Canada's forests, areas were cleared for alien human science centers. Off the coast of Japan, plans were made for underwater Zephyrian cities. Not everything went smoothly. There were cultural misunderstandings and technical difficulties. Some humans still feared the aliens. Some Zephyrians struggled to adapt to Earth's gravity and atmosphere. But slowly, surely, progress was made. Zephyrian ships began to land, bringing families eager to start their new lives. Human volunteers helped them settle in, learning alien words and customs in the process. One sunny day, in the first completed integration zone in New Zealand, a small ceremony was held. Zor-El stood beside the local mayor, ready to cut the ribbon on a new school. The first that would teach both human and Zephyrian children. As the ribbon fell, cheers erupted from the mixed crowd. Human and alien children rushed into the building together, curious and excited. Watching them, Zor-El felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't experienced in years. It was hope, mixed with something else, a feeling of belonging. That night, as the sun set over their new home, Zephyrians looked up at the stars. For the first time, they didn't see a cold, rejecting galaxy. Instead, they saw possibility and the promise of a new beginning. The integration had begun. It wouldn't be easy, but together, humans and Zephyrians were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. 6 months had passed since the Zephyrians began settling on Earth. In many ways, things were going well. The aliens had started to integrate into human society, sharing their knowledge and learning Earth's ways. But as with any big change, problems were starting to surface. In the bustling integration zone near Sydney, Australia, a group of human workers gathered outside a factory. They held signs that read Earth jobs for Earth people and aliens go home. The Zephyrians' advanced technology had made some human jobs obsolete, leading to resentment. Inside the factory, Lyra, now head of a joint human-Zephyrian research team, tried to calm her nervous alien colleagues. "Don't worry," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "They're just scared. We need to show them we're here to help, not replace them." Meanwhile, in the United Nations building in New York, heated debates were taking place. Some countries were upset that they hadn't received any Zephyrian settlements. They accused others of hoarding alien technology and knowledge. "This is not fair," shouted the representative from a small African nation. "We all agreed to share the benefits of this alliance, but some of you are keeping the Zephyrians and their tech to yourselves." As tensions rose on Earth, trouble was brewing in space too. A fleet of ships from the Krax Empire, one of the powerful races that had rejected the Zephyrians, entered the solar system. Their message was clear and threatening. "Humans of Earth, you have made a grave mistake in sheltering the Zephyrians. They are weak and useless. Cast them out or face the consequences. You have 1 Earth month to comply." The news sent shockwaves through both human and Zephyrian communities. Fear gripped many hearts. Would Earth stand with the Zephyrians, or would they be cast out once again? In Washington, D.C., military leaders gathered in emergency meetings. They compared Earth's defenses to what they knew of the Krax Empire's capabilities. The outlook was grim. "We're outgunned and outmatched," said one grim-faced general. "If the Krax decide to attack, we don't stand a chance." But not everyone was ready to give up. In her lab in Geneva, Dr. Emily Chen worked furiously alongside her Zephyrian colleagues. They had been combining human ingenuity with Zephyrian technology, and they were close to a breakthrough. "We can't give up now," Emily said, her eyes bright with determination. "We're on the verge of something big, something that could change everything." As the deadline approached, protests and counter-protests erupted around the world. In some cities, humans and Zephyrians marched together, calling for unity and resistance against the Krax threat. In others, frightened citizens demanded that the aliens be handed over to save Earth. Zor-El, now serving as the chief Zephyrian representative to the UN, addressed the General Assembly. His voice was firm despite the weight on his shoulders. "We understand your fear," he said. "We have lived with that fear for years as we wandered the galaxy. But we ask you to stand with us. Together, we may find strength neither of us knew we had." His words were met with a mix of cheers and boos. The world was divided, unsure of what to do. In that small town in Kansas, young Tommy watched the news with his family. The boy's face was serious as he turned to his parents. "We can't let them take the Zephyrians, can we? They're our friends now." Sarah hugged her son, tears in her eyes. "Oh, Tommy, I wish it were that simple." As the Krax ultimatum entered its final week, the tension was palpable everywhere. Zephyrians huddled in their homes, fearing for their future. Humans argued in the streets and online about what to do. World leaders gathered for one final summit to decide Earth's response. The fate of 2 species hung in the balance. And then, just as hope seemed lost, Dr. Chen burst into the summit room, breathless and excited. "We've done it," she cried. "We've made a breakthrough." All eyes turned to her, a mix of confusion and desperate hope on their faces. What had the human Zephyrian team discovered? Could it save them from the Krax threat? As Emily began to explain, a new spark of hope began to spread. Perhaps, just perhaps, the combined strengths of humans and Zephyrians would be enough to face the coming storm. The world held its breath as Dr. Emily Chen explained the breakthrough to the gathered world leaders. Her eyes shone with excitement as she spoke. "We've combined Zephyrian sound wave technology with human quantum computing," she said. "The result is a shield that can deflect energy weapons." A murmur of surprise and hope rippled through the room. Zor-El, standing nearby, added, "Our weakness has always been our inability to fight. but perhaps our strength lies in our ability to defend. The leaders bombarded them with questions. How strong was the shield? Could it protect the whole planet? How quickly could it be deployed? As Emily and Zor-El answered, a plan began to take shape. They would need to work fast to set up shield generators around the globe before the Cracks' deadline. Meanwhile, in space, the Cracks' fleet grew impatient. Their leader, General Krog, a bulky alien with red, scaly skin, growled at his communication officer. "Send another message to those puny Earthlings. Tell them their time is almost up." Back on Earth, a global effort unlike anything in human history was underway. In every country, humans and Zephyrians worked side by side to build and install shield generators. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal elders guided teams to sites of power. In the mountains of Peru, local farmers helped transport equipment on llamas. Off the coast of Norway, oil rig workers repurposed their platforms to house the new technology. Young Tommy and his family volunteered to help at a generator site in Kansas. As they worked, Tommy chatted with a Zephyrian child named Zix. Despite their differences, the two quickly became friends, sharing jokes and stories as they helped the adults. In her lab in Geneva, Lyra made another discovery. "The shield doesn't just defend," she exclaimed to Dr. Chen. "It can convert the energy from attacks into power for Earth." This news spread quickly, giving people even more hope. Not only could they defend themselves, but they could also potentially gain from any attack. As the deadline approached, tensions reached a fever pitch. The shield network was nearly complete, but would it be enough? Would it work as they hoped? In New York, the UN Security Council met one last time. They had to decide, would they stand with the Zephyrians or give in to the Cracks' demands? After hours of debate, the vote was cast. Earth would stand united with their new Zephyrian friends. They would face the Cracks' threat together. As the decision was announced, cheers erupted around the world. Humans and Zephyrians hugged each other in the streets, their fears momentarily forgotten in the joy of unity. In space, General Krog received the humans' defiant message. His scaly face contorted with rage. "They dare to defy us. Prepare all weapons. We attack at once." The Cracks' fleet moved into position, their massive ships casting shadows on the Earth below. People looked up at the sky, fear and determination mingling in their hearts. In the White House Situation Room, the President of the United States sat with Zor-El and other leaders, both human and Zephyrian. They watched the screens tensely as the Cracks ships approached. "Shield network is online," a technician announced, operating at 100% capacity. Zor-El and the President exchanged a look. This was it, the moment of truth. The Cracks ships opened fire. Massive energy beams shot towards Earth. Everyone held their breath. And then, amazingly, beautifully, the beams hit the shield and dissipated. A shimmer of blue energy rippled across the sky. In the Situation Room, people cheered and hugged, but Zor-El noticed something on the screens. "Look," he said, pointing. "The shield is glowing brighter." Dr. Chen, watching from her lab, confirmed it. "It's working. The shield is absorbing the energy and growing stronger." As the Cracks continued their assault, something unexpected happened. Lights in cities around the world grew brighter. Appliances turned on by themselves. The energy from the attack was powering the entire planet. In space, General Krog stared in disbelief. No matter how much firepower they used, they couldn't break through. And worse, each attack seemed to make Earth stronger. After hours of futile attacks, the Cracks fleet finally ceased fire. Earth had stood strong. The combined ingenuity of humans and the unique abilities of the Zephyrians had created an impenetrable defense. As the Cracks ships retreated, celebrations broke out worldwide. Humans and Zephyrians danced together in the streets, marveling at the beautiful, shimmering shield above them. In that moment, both species realized something profound. Together, they weren't weak at all. They were stronger than they had ever been alone. In the days following Earth's triumphant defense against the cracks, the mood on the planet was jubilant. Humans and Zephyrians celebrated together, their unity stronger than ever. But as the initial excitement faded, a new question arose. What would happen next? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Just a week after the cracks' retreat, a message arrived from deep space. It wasn't from the cracks or any other known alien race. It was from the Galactic Council, the governing body of advanced civilizations that had previously rejected the Zephyrians. World leaders gathered once again in the UN building to hear the message. Zor-El stood beside the human representatives, his thin frame tense with anticipation. The holographic image of a tall, ethereal being appeared before them. "Greetings, people of Earth and Zephyria," it said in a melodious voice. "We have observed recent events with great interest. Your combined strength has surprised us." A murmur ran through the assembled leaders. Zor-El's large eyes widened in disbelief. The Galactic Council had never shown interest in either humans or Zephyrians before. The being continued, "We wish to open diplomatic relations with your allied species. Your innovative defense system has changed certain perceptions in the galaxy." As the implications of this sank in, excitement began to build. Earth and the Zephyrians were being invited to join the galactic community as equals. But not everyone was thrilled. Some humans feared losing Earth's independence. Others worried about more advanced aliens coming to their planet. In a small diner in Kansas, Tommy sat with his parents, watching the news. "Does this mean we'll get to visit other planets?" he asked excitedly. His father frowned. "I don't know, son. It might also mean more aliens coming here. I'm not sure if that's a good thing." Debates raged around the world. Should Earth accept the Council's offer? What would it mean for their future? Meanwhile, the Zephyrians faced their own dilemma. They had finally found a home on Earth, but now the galaxy that had rejected them was opening its doors. Should they leave their new human friends and return to space? Lyra, now a respected scientist in the human Zephyrian community, addressed a mixed crowd in Geneva. "We don't have to choose," she said passionately. "We can be part of both worlds. Our strength comes from our unity with humans. We shouldn't give that up." Her words resonated with many. Humans and Zephyrians had grown close over the past months. The idea of separating now seemed wrong to both species. As the day of decision approached, Zor-El and the human leaders worked tirelessly on a response to the Galactic Council. They crafted a message that would shape the future of both their species. When the time came, Zor-El stood before the UN General Assembly to deliver their answer. Millions around the world watched, hearts pounding with anticipation. "We, the united people of Earth and Zephyria," Zor-El began, his voice strong and clear, "accept the Galactic Council's offer of diplomatic relations. But we do so as one unified alliance. We will not be separated." Cheers erupted in the assembly hall and in homes around the world. Zor-El continued, "We have learned that true strength lies not in weapons or technology alone, but in unity, compassion, and the willingness to stand together in the face of adversity." He went on to outline their conditions. Earth would remain the shared home of humans and Zephyrians. They would engage with the galactic community together, sharing knowledge and resources, and their unique defense system would remain under their joint control. As Zor-El finished speaking, a sense of pride and hope filled the hearts of humans and Zephyrians alike. They had faced galactic rejection, invasion, and now stood on the brink of a new era. In space, the Galactic Council received the message. For the first time in eons, the Council members found themselves reevaluating their old prejudices. The combined strength of humans and Zephyrians had shown them that power could take unexpected forms. Back on Earth, as news of the acceptance spread, people spilled into the streets in celebration. Humans and Zephyrians danced together under the stars. Stars that no longer seemed distant and cold, but full of new possibilities. In the Kansas diner, Tommy grinned at his parents. "See, we're all going to be okay. We're stronger together." His mother smiled back, her earlier fears fading. "You're right, honey. I think this is the beginning of something wonderful." As the celebrations continued, Zor-El and the human leaders began preparing for their first official meeting with the Galactic Council. A new chapter in the story of both species was about to begin, a chapter they would write together. 5 years had passed since Earth and the Zephyrians had joined the Galactic Council. The solar system buzzed with activity as ships from various alien races came and went. Earth had become a hub of interstellar diplomacy and trade, its orbit dotted with space stations where beings from across the galaxy met and mingled. On a clear summer day, a small ship took off from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Inside, an excited group of human and Zephyrian students chatted nervously. They were the first joint Earth-Zephyrian delegation to attend the Galactic Youth Summit on a distant planet. Young Tommy, now a teenager, sat next to his Zephyrian friend Zix. Both had dreamed of this moment for years. "Can you believe it?" Tommy whispered. "We're actually going to another planet." Zix's large eyes sparkled with excitement. "I know. And to think, a few years ago, my people had no home at all." As their ship broke free of Earth's atmosphere, the students gasped at the breathtaking view of their blue planet below. Space stations and ships of various designs floated serenely above it, a testament to the new era of cooperation. Back on Earth, in the bustling city of New Jakarta, Lyra and Dr. Emily Chen put the finishing touches on their latest invention. It was a device that could clean polluted water and air at an unprecedented rate, combining the best of Zephyrian and human technology. "Just think," Emily said, her eyes shining. "This could solve environmental problems not just on Earth, but on planets across the galaxy." Lyra nodded, her thin fingers adjusting a dial. "Yes, and it's only the beginning. Imagine what else we can achieve together." In New York, Zor-El, now Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, prepared for another day of meetings. But these were no longer tense negotiations. Instead, he looked forward to discussions about cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations, and humanitarian missions to help other species in need. As he left his apartment, a human neighbor waved cheerfully. "Good morning, Ambassador. Give those council members our best." Zor-El smiled and waved back, marveling at how much had changed. The Zephyrians, once rejected as weak and useless, were now respected members of the galactic community, thanks to their alliance with humans. In orbit above Earth, a massive project was underway. Human and Zephyrian engineers worked alongside aliens from a dozen different worlds, constructing Earth's first faster-than-light ship. It would allow them to explore far beyond their solar system, embarking on missions of discovery and diplomacy. As the day progressed, news channels around the world buzzed with exciting updates. A human Zephyrian medical team had made a breakthrough in curing a deadly disease that had plagued a distant planet for centuries. Earth's unique shield technology, now shared with peaceful races across the galaxy, had prevented 3 interstellar wars in the past year alone. In the countryside of Japan, a group of Zephyrian artists collaborated with human musicians, creating a new form of music that blended alien harmonics with Earth's diverse musical traditions. Their concerts drew audiences from across the galaxy, a symbol of the beautiful things that could emerge when cultures united. As evening fell, families around the world, both human and Zephyrian, gathered to watch a special broadcast. It was a message from the Galactic Council, delivered annually to celebrate the Earth-Zephyrian alliance. The ethereal being appeared on screens everywhere, its voice filled with warmth. 5 years ago, we witnessed something extraordinary. 2 species, one deemed too weak to have a place among the stars, the other young and untested, came together and showed us the true meaning of strength. The being continued, "The Earth-Zephyrian alliance has brought new hope to our galaxy. You've shown us that compassion, creativity, and cooperation are just as vital as technology and military might. Your example has inspired changes across the cosmos, ushering in an era of unprecedented peace and progress." As the message concluded, Cheers erupted in homes and public squares around the world. Humans and Zephyrians embraced, their joy echoed by their alien friends and allies on 1,000 worlds. In their ship, now deep in space, Tommy and Zix watched the message too. As the stars streaked by outside their window, they turned to each other with wide grins. "You know what, Zix?" Tommy said. "I think this is just the beginning of our adventure." Zix nodded, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "You're right, Tommy. The galaxy rejected us once, but together we'd found our place among the stars. And now, the whole universe is waiting for us to explore." As their ship sped towards new horizons, Earth shone brightly behind them, a beacon of hope, unity, and unexpected strength in the vast cosmic ocean.